So today we have this special feast of the exaltation of the cross, where we take a pause from ordinary time, from green and wearing red here. The last time the September 14th fell on a Sunday was over 10 years ago. But it is the feast of exaltation of the cross, and the church has set aside one day to celebrate and lift up the cross. The cross, a symbol of shame, death, torture, but also a symbol of our salvation. And in order for us to properly exalt the cross today, we must look at both the disease that we're all inflicted with, and then secondly, the remedy. So first, the disease we're all inflicted with. Like many of you, the news on Wednesday of Charlie Kirk being shot and murdered, it rattled me, shook me. I had to finish the meetings and appointments in the afternoon, but later in the evening, when I had an opportunity to sit with it, actually two separate occasions, I cried. And it was just the sadness that was hitting me. The sadness of what sin looks like, of what it's capable of. And I found myself asking the question, like perhaps some of you did on Wednesday or Thursday, how could anyone be capable of doing such a thing? And there's really only two answers to that, possibilities. The first is for you to say, there's something in some people that makes them capable of this. If you do that, be careful. Remember the U.S. soldiers who liberated the concentration camps, and they saw the horrors of which took place in the concentration camps. They were led to believe and to think and to say, there must be something up with these Germans to do this. There's got to be something with them. But notice, as soon as you do that, you're doing the same thing. You're doing the same thing that they did, of thinking that the Jews were subhuman. So the second possibility, if you don't say there's something in some people to make them capable of such a thing, then you have to say there's something in all of us. That's the Christian understanding. That's original sin of us being born and our human nature being wounded and now bent toward evil. The other thing you can look at, like since on Wednesday, because you'd be tempted to be like, oh man, just that one guy out there who did this. Look at the number of people who are happy about the murder. My sister called me and told me that somebody had called her and on the phone said, Charlie Kirk deserved worse. He's burning in hell right now. That rhetoric has been all over. You remember, after World War II ended, Adolf Eichmann, who was one of the big Nazi architects of the Holocaust, once the war ended, he fled. He was eventually captured and arrested and brought back to Israel for trial. And what they had to do is they had to find witnesses who were there at the death camps that witnessed Adolf making these orders and carrying out these actions, who saw it take place. And so one of the witnesses that they found and tracked down and brought in, one of them was Yahil Denor. And this was broadcast live on TV, the trials of specifically Eichmann being on trial. And when Denor entered into the courtroom, and he came face to face with Eichmann, Denor collapsed and wept like a baby. And later he was interviewed by Mike Wallace on 60 Minutes, and Mike Wallace was asking him about the tears and the reaction that led to him collapsing in the courtroom and the tears. And he asked him, it's like, were you overcome with hatred in this moment? Did you have like post-traumatic stress syndrome when you saw him? And to all those, Denor said, no. And this is a quote from him. When I walked in and saw him, I suddenly realized he was no demon. He was an ordinary human being exactly like me. And suddenly I became terrified about myself. I saw that I'm capable of the very same things. He looked into his own heart and saw darkness. He saw the disease that he was inflicted with as well. So I ask you, do you see that darkness? Do you know it? Do you think that it's just some people out there? Or can you recognize it in your own heart? The Christian and biblical understanding is that sin is not just breaking little moves of breaking sin. It is that. But there's also a capital S sin, of which that sin is a disease. It's a power in which, it's a darkness in which that we've been born into, that it infects the human heart, and we need a remedy for it. And there's only one remedy, which brings us to that very bizarre first reading we had at the Mass today, which maybe many of us have not heard it, or at least it was 10 years ago since we heard it, since this is the last time that this feast fell on this Sunday. The Israelites have just left tyranny, have just left Egypt, and now they're complaining against God. There it is again. They're being disobedient. They're rebelling against God. You see the disease coming out again. So God sends poisonous snakes, bites the people. The snakes bite the people. Deadly poison enters their body, and many of them die. So the people then repent. They cry out. They've realized their sinfulness of being disobedient, rebellious. They cry out to Moses, to God, and they turn to Moses and says, hey, could you go talk to God and have him send away the snakes? And God does. Moses does go to God, and God, you would think that God would just call off the snakes. Be easy enough. Just snap of the finger, call off the snakes. But that's not what happens. Something really weird happens. God doesn't tell him just call off the snakes. God tells Moses, go make an image of a bronze serpent, wrap it around a pole, and raise up the pole, and have the people look at the serpent. And if they look at it, then they'll be healed. They'll be healed of their deadly poison, and they'll come back to life. The very thing that was killing them, the serpent, the symbol of death, of sin, was to be raised up and be the means for their healing. So think about it for a minute. Think of a snake that gets into a camp, right? And there's tents, there's families, kids running around, they're having fun. There's a camp with all these tents, and then a snake gets in, and it's just wreaking havoc amongst all the people in the camp. What's the one thing that would have to happen in order for the camp to have peace restored, to have their hope restored? A hunter would have to come in, and the hunter would have to kill the snake. But killing the snake wouldn't even be enough. The hunter would take the snake, and he would hold it up, and he would probably go around the whole camp and say, I got it. Look at it. Here it is. And the camp, their hope would be restored. Their peace would be restored. Now listen again to Jesus' words in the gospel. Just as Moses lifted up the serpent in the desert, so must the Son of Man be lifted up. It's like, wait a minute. Is Jesus comparing himself to the dead snake mounted up on a pole? The snake that bit and killed people? Yes, that's exactly what Jesus is doing. When Jesus says, just as Moses lifted up the serpent in the desert, so must the Son of Man be lifted up. Jesus isn't just saying that he's going to die on the cross. He is saying that, and that is what happens. He's also saying, I will place myself as the serpent. I will take into myself the very poison and the disease that has infected you, which began in the garden by the snake bite with Adam and Eve, that's inflicted all of us. And I will take that upon myself. I will take that curse upon myself. This is where Paul in Galatians chapter 3, he says, Christ redeemed us from the curse by becoming a curse for us. And he quotes Deuteronomy, cursed is everyone who is hung upon the pole. Although Jesus was sinless and blameless, he allowed himself to be treated as if he was sin itself. He who knew no sin became sin so that we may know the righteousness of God. He was cursed in our place. Have you given yourself to the cross? Have you given your life to it? Have you surrendered your life to the cross? The sin that's in you, the brokenness that's in you and me, the darkness which causes you to do things that you know are wrong. I don't want to do it, and I find myself doing it anyways. The brokenness, the sin, the darkness. You need a remedy. Have you made deep personal friendship with the hunter and the victim? The one who took upon the curse upon himself, so that you might have freedom, that you might be liberated from the tyrant of Satan. Give your life to the cross. Surrender completely today, this morning, to the cross and the person of Jesus. I'll close with this. 4 days before Charlie Kirk was shot and murdered, he wrote this: Jesus defeated death so that you can live. Jesus defeated death so that you can live. There it is. On this feast of the exaltation of the cross, know that you've been snake bitten. And the only way to be healed from the deadly poison of sin is to look to the cross, look at him so that you might live.